And you did not in 1984. And look at the stroke of a pen, what you did. On a stroke of a pen, you took away the geothermal, 4 geothermal subzones in Puna. And what did you replace it with? The whole state practically as a geothermal subzone. And what did you replace that with? Elimination of the county government, as improved it should be and must be. Eliminate the county government, your closest touch with government, authority in regards to all permitting process in regards to geothermal resource permit. I cannot understand the powers in be to disregard people of this land and the land so blatantly. This is what I asked the governor, and I do credit and I do thank Governor Abercrombie and Lieutenant Governor Schultz, because at that time I was not an announced candidate. They heard that Harry was pissed, so they called. I better watch my language, right? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't gamble, I don't hunt, I don't fish, I don't bowl, I don't play tennis, and I don't use profanity generally. Really, my son is 44 years old, he's never heard me use certain words. I've heard him though. But I told the governor, this is what I ask of you. Because in a paper the day before I spoke to him, he said that within a week he was going to come up with some major announcements of geothermal. And I told him, and I asked him, after I thanked him for initiating the call, because I know he didn't have to, please don't do anything until you talk to people other than the people here. Don't listen to Harry Kim. Don't listen to the people of Puna. Don't listen to the pro-geothermal people. Don't listen to your staff. Get out of this area and try to find out what is true. I want you to call. You must have some real good people of professionalism in California, elsewhere in this world. And show them Act 97. And ask them only one question. What do you think? I talked to the Lieutenant Governor, and I asked him one question. He said, I was asked to call you by the Governor because you had some concerns. So Mr. Schultz, I'm going to ask you one question. And all of this is true. I ask you to trust me of everything of that I'm telling you of what I did and what I said is of truth. I asked him, do you know the difference between the geothermal resource production source of California and Iceland versus Hawaii? It's a key difference, right? And he says he did it not. And so then how can you people proceed with things that will affect the people and land when you don't know it in detail? I asked Bob, Patricia, Miss Patricia, and others, even Mr. Olson, that we've known for a while. I've known Mr. Olson for so long, I wonder why I know him. But we're friends. We've seen each other in very tight situation of anxiety and anger and frustration of people. I do not understand why I had to tell the governor and the lieutenant governor what I just said. Isn't it that the government that we should trust, that should answer and present to you every single question that you may have regarding things that will affect your lifestyle, instead of you having to be here? And that's what I'm kind of disgusted about it. Because above all else, I still want you to trust your government, because that's all we got. I don't have to tell you what happens in the rest of the world with a government that is totally not trusted and dictatorial. Who wants to even get near that? This is our government. This is your government. I need you to trust us. And I know we have to earn that trust. I know you don't just ask for it, you earn it. On geothermal, when I told the lieutenant governor that, I do not understand why you can proceed. When I went to Honolulu, and I'm not making any of this up, and this is not to make fun of somebody, this is to illustrate the problem you have to proceed from here. Just like some of you, your information is misinformed. You should know that. Our goal from here on in is of truth, so they cannot debate you. When I went to Honolulu and spoke before the commission, people who supported it, to eliminate EIS, EAS, and to possibly make state lands available for it. And there was a speaker, there were speakers in front of me, and one of the speakers stated that when this is passed, which is the removal of EIS and EAS requirement for any exploratory drilling, that he knows there were about 20 drilling companies waiting to come. I was the next speaker, and I knew my task of trying to change the vote around was very, very small. And I knew that because I was told that it's a done deal. The subcommittee voted 6 out of 7 to vote for it. I was approaching the general committee, and all they needed was 2 more votes, 15 members total. 8 to make a simple majority, and this would be law. Just that simple. And I told them that before I testified to you, I was concerned. But right now, I'm scared. I'm scared because of what I just heard of drilling companies waiting to come. I'm scared because the man in charge of the state of Hawaii for the land and natural resources says to Star Honolulu Advertiser 2 days before that hearing, and you can look it up. What are they so concerned about? It's like drilling for water. That's what was said. The issue here is not whether he was right or wrong. The issue is that he, like the governor, the lieutenant governor, all the powers in be, have got to stop. They've got to talk to you. They've got to review. We've got to stop our goddamn haggling and know what the main issue is. I opened up a statement in regards to the Planning Commission simply by saying, because I knew that I got to put this in writing. I've been blackballed before with irradiation when I said irradiation plants shouldn't be built in the tsunami zone. Next thing, Harry Kim is against irradiation plants. Gee, that's not what I said. But that's how they label it. Like some of you bunch of hippies and drug dealers and everything else, that's what you're grumbling about. Hey, you know I'm telling the truth, right? I'm not calling you that. I've said that's what they're calling you. We've got to go for truth. And he doesn't know it. But he did you and me and everybody else a big favor by publicly stating and showing his lack of information that drilling for geothermal is like drilling for water. We can use that alone to the government and all the powers that be. This is what we have of knowledge. There's so much information out there. Should we not put the brakes on everything? Get an objective body to really review this the way it should be done in the first place. And then the powers that be, the people in be can make your decision on where to stand on this very difficult, complex issue based on truth. And that's the way it should be. I ask of you, we need to get there. And I will close with this. I am sorry we are here. It's not supposed to be this way. Thank you.
We're going to open up for questions here in just a minute. I just want to cover a couple of quick things before we do. And I'm going to ask Harry to stick around and answer questions for you guys. One of the things is the leases. You know, we're looking to find out where these leases are because it's proprietary, it's secret. We know where some of the leases are. We know Four Corners is leased. We know they're negotiating for the Sanford Cinder Pit up in Opee Cow. We know Railroad Avenue, Noni Farms Road area, and we had a meeting. Sanford was nice enough to invite the neighbors to a meeting when he was approached to lease his land. And so I went to that meeting, and it was with a company called Global Geoenergy. And the subsidiary company is Labrador Energy out of Honolulu. And so at that meeting, I asked him about leases. And he said they have other leases, but he wouldn't tell me where they were. We wouldn't even know about Sanford's lease if Sanford hadn't told us. So if you have neighbors, you know, they're approaching all the properties over 50 acres or more. And we do know Kool-Aid Cooper properties around Pohiki also is negotiating for leases for geothermal. This thing is huge. And like Harry was said, and when I talked to Avalor about it, this guy Dean, a nice guy, and he said there are over 20 companies that are looking to come here and do this kind of stuff. So this isn't something, when Billy Kanoy says, what cable, what are you talking about? I just have to say, you know, this is real. This is really what's happening. This is what they want to do. And so please come to the September 14th EIS hearing. Also, please, if you got a few bucks, please help us pay for the building. Get on the email list. And that's about it. Can we have the mics, Paul? Let's open this up for questions.
So, Bob, what do you want to do about the patina tomorrow?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What do you want to do about the patina tomorrow?
What do you mean? Will we have a booth?
You have a booth, but you want everybody to show up and do what?
Oh, I don't think that's necessary. There's a thing at Pohiki Beach tomorrow. We're going to have a booth there. Some of the pro geothermal are going to have a booth there. We're just doing education, so it's not a protest or anything like that.
So there's a protest tomorrow?
There is not a protest tomorrow, please. It starts at 10 o'clock. It starts at 10 o'clock and it ends at 4 o'clock. They're going to have music and games and kids. And really, I think, you know, Harry's kind of hit this on the head, and we have people, Jeff Lass, that it's an educational thing. You know, we got to talk to each other. And because I think I understand the issue pretty well, and if we get everybody to be able to understand the issue, we'll be in a lot better position. Joyce. Can you get a microphone? Stand up.
Okay, the question is, starting from the beginning, and no one's brought this point up yet and spoken, so please consider this point. There was no legal right for any geothermal drilling in the rift of the world's most active volcano in length, if not in velocity, right in the middle of where people live. And you're talking about Opee Cow? People live in Opee Cow. That's right next door to Lake Monty.
Why are you mad at us?
I'm not. I'm sorry. My life is threatened.
That's not a question, but I will say this. For those of you who have been here since the early 80s or before that, the Natural Energy Lab was basically an experimental thing with the University of Hawaii, and they convinced everyone that this is something that's good. It's an experimental thing. It's 2 years and it terminates. And the first violation in regards to state government, along with the private sector, and they made it a production well, which a contract said it would not be. It was at that point, I think, our greatest failure came, that we in government, and I was civil defense at the time, that we in government did not speak up to the whole project and stop everything there, because when it was closed by the government in 1988, was picked up for the production plant that you see down in 1990, and the blow-up occurred in 1991. You know, we all go through life with certain kind of jobs, responsibilities, and certain things we're proud of, and certain things we're not. And if this sounds a little blatantly, arrogantly bragging, I am proud of certain positions taken. One of the requirements of by law, because of the geothermal resource permit system reviewed by your planning commission, required what they call an emergency response plan be done by geothermal before they could go ahead with production. And to be reviewed and approved by civil defense. When you have a staff of only 2 people, you know, civil defense sounds nice, but there's only 3 people. And so the plan came to me, and I rejected it for several reasons. The plan came back again, and I rejected it again. And this is why, among other reasons of which I am proud of and which I am sorry for, private business should never, ever dictate to government and to the public in regards to an emergency status. It is of government's responsibility to work with all parties indeed to identify all hazards and risk of anything and require that agency to respond to all questions and develop a plan that addresses this. In the EPA report, it states that one of my biggest disagreement was that the government should not be at the whim of the private business. I said at Leilani, and this is the point of emphasis, if this was nuclear energy, anywhere, if this was nuclear energy, or even an oil plant, would you trust that private business to tell you when there is an emergency? Would you trust that agency to dictate to you what an emergency is? Because this goes against all principle of emergency management. That was the beginning of our failure. That we started to allow the private sector to dictate. I will close with this of the most important issue, and thank you for the question because I wanted to say this. One of our greatest areas of failure is that government wants to develop geothermal. Okay, let's say that's fine. Let's say all of you supports it. That's fine. But you know what is still required? It is still required that government set up a system to protect you. Because anything of man-made can fail. You know that. It is government's responsibility to set up an entire system of rules and regulations, just like California, and ask the governor to please look at it. And they're clean steam. They're not like ours. And their rules and regulations are admirable. So I told the governor and lieutenant governor, just look at it. And look at our failure of what we have not done. There was something in the newspaper recently, and I wanted to have people of Puna, say something, but nobody says anything. That's a I was going to say bitch, but I won't use that word. That's the damnest thing about being a mayor, you know, because they're going to say, he's just grandstanding because he's mayor's candidate. Because that's what us politicians do. They're always grandstanding. But how can this government, your Department of Health, your Land and Natural Resources, how can the Department of Health state to you in the juvenile, not too long ago, they're going to close one of your monitoring stations, they had only two, which is totally inadequate, to monitor H2S because of a lack of funds and a low reading. I want you to start asking, as I told Bob, you got to ask the right questions. Present to the public what is your monitoring and enforcing rules and your capability as an agency to ensure that this is enforced. And I think you will be very, very disappointed with the answer. Thank you.
One statement and one question. The statement is in 1994, there was a federal EIS prepared, but it wasn't completed because the state didn't want it to be completed. So with this new EIS, you should be sure to have all the components of the original 1994 EIS incorporated into it.
I want to say there's a handout with information for the EIS. I don't know if it has one, Rick, but at the table in the beginning, are they circulating? Please, if you're coming to the hearing, grab one of these, and if you have questions, contact us.
The other question is, can private land be purchased or condemned by PLDC?
Yes.
Affect the scope enormously.
I believe it can.
The answer is yes and no. Then when I say yes, all private land, regardless if I want to make a highway or anything like that, you have to show for it is for the good, common good of the community. So yes, if they can prove that, like I said, they do it all the time in regards to condemnation of roads, or land for roads, for the good of the community.
One more part of that is if they can, I don't know about condemning it, but they can force you to do these improvements and bill you, and it can be tens of thousands, $100,000. If you can't pay, you can't lose your land that way.
I got a simple question.
Aloha. Hello for the work that you're doing. Very grateful.
Thank you.
It is my understanding that October 4th is the date that they will be deciding if this $200,000 request from the Windward Planning Commission is going to go through for health surveys with Dr. Kelly Kilburn. Is that correct?
It is actually, it's a health study, and that's not exactly what's going to happen. There are no rules in place. When we made the request, like what Jane was talking about is we knew there were no rules in place, and we're working on, just so you know, we're working on a couple of other ways to fund this health study. We're not just sitting around waiting for these guys.
I'm on Indiegogo.
I'm sorry?
I'm on Indiegogo asking for funds for independent health studies.
Well, that's separate. That is separate from what we're doing.
I would like to fund it wherever it needs to go, which is to the
Well,
community.
if you wanna give the funds to us, we've got a couple places that are set up for that.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hi. It's an election time right now, and I know Harry was saying that a lot of decisions have been taken out of the council's hands.
I can't hear you.
I know Harry said a lot of the decisions have been taken out of the county's hands at a state level now for asylum. But how do we stand on the council, and how come there aren't any council members here that are coming up for election? What are their opinions? How do they stand?
Well, I can't speak for them. I can give you personal opinions. You know, we've had some help from the existing council. There were five of the members on the existing council did support us on our bills. Angel Pelago, Brenda Ford, Dominic Ugong, Pete Hoffman, and Brittany Smart. And the other four opposed us. So I can't say that's how it'll be going forward. The makeup of the council is going to change, and we really don't know what to expect. So I think we need to get Harry Kim elected mayor and make a big difference. Who's got the microphone? Okay.
Yeah, if a lease is issued and they say that it's not productive for geothermal, can the Public Land Development Corporation then say the land is worthless and sell it to a developer?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. They say they can't sell the lands, but if they issue a lease, a 70-year lease or a 100-year lease, they might as well have sold the land.
I've heard a lot that the resource, there doesn't seem to be much scientific evidence that there's actually that big of a geothermal resource here. So maybe the transfer of land for development is really the ultimate goal.
The PLDC is not strictly about geothermal. They did have a resolution, Senate Bill 25, they passed specific to geothermal. The PLDC encompasses any kind of development on any kind of public lands, ceded lands, and they bypass all zoning, county zoning, all building permit requirements, basically everything except some kind of an EIS process. Like I said, I haven't ever seen anything like it before.
Bob?
Yeah, I guess one point that we really, you made it once, but I think I'd like to present it to everybody here again. These folks with money that are coming in here and wanting to do this, it isn't just about electricity. It's about making, it's about industrialization. It's about hydrogen. It's about different things. And they don't need as much electricity to do what they want to do. And you're going to see trucks rolling through this town. I mean, this is an issue that's going to affect all of Puna, because there's going to be trucks going down that highway, lots of them. So that's something, you know, it isn't just about electricity, and they're going to do it if we allow them to. Thank you.
Yes. So when I'm hearing all kinds of things, but I really want to try and focus us because it seems like this event that's happening on September 14th matters. It's at Hilo High School, and what time is it? It's a Friday.
It's 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Till 8:30 p.m.
Are they taking email commentary beforehand?
I will, yes. And also take the handout. Please get on my email list as well as the Puna Pono email list. And I send out updates, and I will send out at least 2 more updates on that hearing.
Because if they're taking email ahead of time, you know, it's great if we all show up.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Yeah.
There is an email address, I believe. I don't have that information with me right now.
It would just be really good to have a letter that when people are addressing it, they can do it so with an intelligent commentary.
I do know that, well, if you're talking about a talking sheet, this is one that we have. Sierra Club will probably have another one. We're going to be sending those out over the next week or so. There is a state website, http Hawaii Clean Energy Pets.com. I have no idea what kind of information is on that site.
Well, what I'm suggesting is that someone write a letter, like a model letter, that helps us then, you know, have intelligent response, so we don't just rave, because when we get angry and upset and scared, we rave, and that doesn't necessarily help us.
Okay, well, maybe Carrie can answer that question.
Yeah, they should take email comments at this website.
They should be taking email comments at that website, and there should be, this will go on for a while, it's just the scoping, and then they have to do a draft EIS, so it'll be going on for a while, but the scoping, that tells you the range of issues they're going to cover, so you want to raise every possible issue that needs to be covered.
And this actually, this handout has some good points if you read it. And maybe you don't agree, I'm sorry, that was the best we could do, but I will be sending out another update on that. And you can email me specifically through Puna Pono with any requests that you have, and I'll do the best I can to get you whatever you're looking for. Greg? Greg?
Yeah,
just so you guys, just to put something out for you guys, one of the main things I found talking in the community of our position is that people are really interested in going off the grid. This is something that we have to really press on in the general discussion, because one of the things that the general public is being beaten over the head with by geothermal and by Helco, Eco, and the rest of the power companies is that they're the only way that we can get a reliable power. And this type of thing, at least once a week for the last 4 months, I've been approached by people in general conversation. How do you go through the process? If you've gone off grid, right, and you know the process of how you can do this, right, and the main thing is how you can get financing. By all means, educate people.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I've been off grid for quite a while, and I can tell you from my experience, it's cheaper than Helco. The startup costs are pretty high, and what I would like to see from the county council, and we need to put this stuff forward, is, and I talked to Gregory Ligon about this already, he's running for council, about some way for the county to help the initial startup costs, and so we're looking. That, we gotta figure that out as a community. How are we gonna put together a loan program so people can get the startup costs and get the solar system installed? Because the best way, in my opinion, the best way to beat Helco and the best way to beat geothermal is to go solar. And just fall off to the grid. And I'll tell you, from where I live, all through Lower Puna, there's no power lines. And there are thousands of us that are not on the grid, and we live just fine.
Let's loan them our relocation money. Let's loan
I think
them.
that's wonderful, and I have my neighbor is on solar power, and that's a whole nother discussion. If you're sitting at your home with your solar panels, you're still gonna that's not gonna protect you from the wells.
That's right.
And that's what I think
we're
here to talk about.
I think geothermal is not I don't think it's economically real. I don't exactly understand why they're doing it, because I think they're gonna lose money. It must be that in the development, they're getting grants from the government, they're getting loan guarantees. It's a huge corporate structure, and, but it's expensive. It's very expensive compared to solar right now. And as we go, part of the thing is time. Solar's getting cheaper, geothermal and other sources are going up because of the materials and the transportation and all of that. I think at this point right now, and I've studied this quite a bit, I don't think it's economic right now. And I think 2 years or 3 years from now, it's going to be less so. So that's one of the things, part of the education that we have to understand is, what does geothermal really cost? So if we're going to talk about a cable, because that's what they're using as this whole big project is going to the cable. A cable alone, the feds are estimating $16 billion. So I did a calculation, and you can put a solar system on every house. There's just over 500,000 houses in the state of Hawaii. If we bought the systems together and we did group contracts with installations and all that, you could have a system on every house for $10 billion. And it would produce, Russell Ruderman was going to be running for Senate, told me that will produce more power than what they're going to get. So for less money, you'll get rid of the cable. It's reliable. Your power's not centralized in the east. So there are so many reasons not to do geothermal that it's just amazing me that this is still happening. And I think we're going to win. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but I really think we're going to win. But the way we're going to win is you guys got to come. You got to come out to the meetings. You got to kind of help us where you can. And I know you all got jobs and all that, but we really need the support. And the sooner the better. The longer this gets down the road, like what happened with the existing power plant is by the time we really got rolling, they had permits. They were doing the permit and all of that. They're not there yet, and we need to short circuit that.
Yes, I'd just like to invite everyone, if you have not registered to vote yet, this is still our main way of making change. I have some voter registration forms back here. Voter registration for the general election closes October 8th. So please come and register. It's really simple. You fill it out and you mail the form in. That's how easy it is. And there's numbers on here to make sure that you get your precinct letter in the mail telling you where to go. Yes, I do, right here.
Thank you. You gotta get the mic, you gotta get the mic. Hey, Jim.
Oh, aloha, Harry, and thanks for coming out again. Harry, I wonder if you can elaborate on the governor and the lieutenant governor not knowing the difference between Iceland, California, and Hawaii geothermal. What are some of the main points that you see there?
Hi, that was Jim Albertini on the mic. Rebel Rouser Jim. Paying the real Jim, or whatever you want to call him. I'm saying that purposely because I want you to know more of who I am. Because I'm asking you to give me something that is most precious, and that is of your trust of what I say and do. I called Jim to my office when I was mayor, just like Mr. Christie, individually. And I told Jim, I believe in what you're doing, but I do not believe in the way you're doing, because your goal should be to get the public to support you. I don't think there should be any question that all of our goals should be peace on earth. And let it begin with us. In regards to Jim's question, the issue of geothermal production is such a complex one. It's so easy to be misled, like I was misled in regards to the plant here, because I read what California classifies as you either clean steam, white steam, or hot rock magma. And they define the difference. Iceland does the same. They use different words of conventional and non-conventional, and Hawaii is non-conventional. And they both stated that, basically of water insertion. And then you find out later of truth, Mr. Travis helped me out a lot to call people back. And they said they do that for simplicity. But there is no conflict of opinions in Jim's question, what is the difference? First of all, absolutely, it's not like drilling for water. But number one is the residue of geothermal. When any of you see pictures of the geysers, whether it be California or elsewhere, this is steam created by nature's natural way. They tap that steam. They don't have to do anything to create that steam. And using that power, they don't have to do anything, to use a layman's word, to clean the residue, because basically the residue is of water. And most of the places it's reinserted back into the natural waterways. On geothermal here, we have a problem that they don't have to face. And it's very simple, first of all, of where they are in a very highly seismic area. But besides that, the residue of geothermal here contains things of hydrogen sulfide and others that on a level that is dangerous. The element of re-injecting it back to the earth, the element of their problems in operation because of the literally huge accumulation of residue that must be treated almost like hazardous material. The issue here on that is not whether it's good or bad. The issue here is that in the development of an emergency plan or awareness of the public for you to make a position, you should be aware of this. And the governor, lieutenant governor, and the private business should be aware of this. I guarantee you there are scientists out there that are concerned or have questions in regards to the tons and tons and tons of re-injection back into Mother Earth. These are all the kind of questions I, as a citizen and a lover of this land, would like to know too. The major difference of Mr. Albertini is this: the residue is clean, ours is not.
I just want to say a very small thing. I would actually feel proud if I drove home across and saw 50 acres of solar panels. Like, I'd be willing to see that. And I don't know, I just want to say that. Like, I understand that I use energy, and it's got to come from somewhere, and I'm willing to be part of that. I just want it to be clean.
Centralized power is a thing of the past, really. The future is decentralized power, where you use the power where you produce it, because a big part of the cost of electricity in Hawaii is to move it around. It's over half just to put it through those power lines. Just as an example, to push the power from here to Oahu through the cable is going to take 100 megawatts of power. They're going to have to produce 100 megawatts just to push it through, and then whatever they need or want on top of that. So it's antiquated, it's inefficient, it's expensive, and it's a way to maintain a monopoly. So anyway, I think when we start thinking about solar, we need to start thinking about decentralized, the microgrids or personal use.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is more or less a call to arms. 30-some years ago, when I was in my former state of Oregon, a lot of people recognized that there was a nuclear power plant that was not one. And it did not become decommissioned until enough people showed up. And they did, and I was one of them, and it worked. It took a lot more people than are in this room. And so it's up to us to convince centralized power will never work. I also am on solar power. But it's all about the power structures that run it, the money that's behind it. It is very powerful. And it's not more powerful than we are. But our power is in numbers. So we can't just leave here and think, okay, somebody else is going to deal with this. We have to deal with this.
Yes, that's right. We hopefully put an organization in place to help facilitate others. Several, Sierra Club's another one. What we really would like to see, and what we saw with Public Land Development Corporation, is all of the groups starting to work together on some of these issues, because really the problem is kind of the same on a lot of different issues. It starts at the top of the state government about how the process is done. Hey, Michael.
Hi. Just a quick statement. I'm sure everybody knows this place is the most miraculous island on earth. And just to mention, there's just so many creative, wonderful people here that know about sustainability and permaculture and everything. And we happen to be doing the dolphin birthing sort of things, and bee buddies and a few other things, and I'm sure there's many marvelous projects here. And these diverse projects will bring more benefit to this island than any industrial rollover. And as Starlight used to say, you have to remember which side of the dream you want to wake up on. So I'm voting for paradise and to keep it that way. But I have a couple questions, just to get it out on the table. I've gotten a number of rumors from various people that strange things are going down at geothermal, possibly waste being reinjected. Others think the white powder gold substance is being produced there. Others are wondering why trucks. Others wondered why trucks of the civil defense and fire and medical were all turned away when some big explosion thing happened down at the plant. So are they above the law? So I'm just wondering, just to get it out on the table, can somebody look into all these weird rumors and find out what's going on? Because at least we've gotten numerous indications that something strange is happening. That's about it. Thanks.
I want to try to attempt to answer that question, but not directly in regards to. I need this group to sit down and address specific issues. So I told others in this room before of asking very specific questions. I need you to stay away from questions that leads towards labeling who you are and what you're concerned about. Not that the accusations are right or wrong, but this group should really be specific in the questions asked, and then let the proper officials that you invite to this meeting answer those questions. And if some of that is what was asked today, fine. But don't be led astray in regards to certain issues, and then it leads to, see, they don't know what you're talking about. Because all you have to do is pick on one item that is not true, and it gets hopped on, you know that. So stick to specific issues, because you have enough specific issues, I guarantee you, to cause them problems in regards to answering.
Mayor Harry? Mayor Harry? Right here. There are a lot of people going around this island. There are a lot of people going around this island. I'm sure you know who they are. They're promoting geothermal. And I'm asking you, can geothermal be done correctly? And is there any place on this island where geothermal could be done without impacting the people and powering only this island, not cables going other places? Thank you.
The approximate megawatt requirement of this island, and my figures can be old, but they'll be in a round neighborhood. Approximate number of megawatts for energy need for this island is in the 200 to 250 megawatts. Geothermal, as you know, now provides approximately 30 megawatts, and they are permitted to go up to 60 megawatts. In regards to your question, are there any places on this land of ours that it can be done safely? Before we go there, I really would like to have certain scientists of geology be called in to review the reinjection system. The reinjection system is a critical part of geothermal here because of the residue, the amount of residue that needs to be gone back into Mother Earth. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I just feel a little uncomfortable because so many questions are not answered, and what I am very uncomfortable about is what we're talking about. It is the private industry that monitors that. There's a whole element of geothermal is monitored by themselves, including all releases. In direct answer to your question, more so as far as it can be done safely, I think a certain magnitude could be done, like right now, in regards to what they're doing. I think more openness in regards to what they're doing, so you and I and the whole public can trust them. Whether that area can generate 200 plus megawatts, I don't know. I'm not an expert on geothermal production. But I think before we go there and before they even start to lead us there, we need to all back up and take a look at this whole industry. And so you and I and everybody else will trust the information coming out, and will trust that, and I guarantee you this, before you expand to any magnitude like that, sir, you better establish a monitoring enforcement agency with strict rules.
I would just like to further asking the question that was just brought up about safety. Mr. Kim, can you say that all the power that would be generated by geothermal on Hawaii Island is indeed dirty? It will never be a clean source of geothermal power here?
No, I'm saying the production of geothermal here is different from conventional in Iceland, or clean steam or white steam in California, because of the major difference of no residue that contains this kind of toxic material that they have to re-inject, of H2S and other things. Really can be, this is the naivety of Harry Kim again. I got to believe that yes, it can be done, but like everything else on a certain magnitude, location, is that site specific. Yes, it will. Let's say I stand up here and say that ORMAP now, 30 megawatt or 50 megawatt or 60 megawatt plant can be done safely because the government has stepped in and this, that. Still, there are residents right next door. And these are the kind of things that we say, okay, safety. One of my greatest peace on earth is quiet. I really love quiet. And that's why I spend a lot of time on myself, and early morning, late night. Could I live next to a geothermal? Is that hazardous to my health? For me, absolutely, because I love quiet.
For the health study, can this group choose the person they want to do the study? Or does the county have to go through some kind of bidding process where they look at different people who could do the study and their qualifications and what it would cost and so forth?
When I tell you I'm sorry of where you are, that's one of the things I'm sorry about. Strictly because the state of Hawaii has an organization called the Department of Health that's supposed to do that for you. We as citizens are not supposed to go begging or raising money or looking for another avenue to do this for us. And they're supposed to do it. By the way, you guys know Corey, I brag that I have only one endorsement, and that's Sierra Club.
This question is for you, Kim. I live next door to the geothermal plant, adjacent to it downwind, and you had mentioned the evacuation plan, and according to us, we don't know of one that exists for us. You said it needed to be through civil defense. How are we going to do that? Because if there's a blowout, they have to call civil defense, who sometimes calls 911 to get that stuff going. So there's a lot of time. So can civil defense say to the geothermal plant, we want you to have an alarm system, and if you have a blowout, you flip a switch, it comes on, we as the neighbors know, and we get out of there. That to me is a simple solution. Who do you have to go through, and would that work?
Being that Harry's head of civil defense is a better question for him, and then maybe I'll make a comment after.
When someone who had your interest and pursued it, and Mr. Yugong, Bob Patrici, I asked Mr. Patrici, please don't allow this issue, the evacuation plan, take you away from the main issue itself. The development of an evacuation plan was developed in the 1990s. It is, before I came here, I watched all and I tried to listen and learn from all major disasters, mistakes. Today they were looking at Louisiana again, and it showed so many people trapped and isolated by flooding waters because another levee breached. The biggest problem there of emergency responders was this: hazard and risk assessment. If you have a blowout here, it's not as simple as to trigger off an alarm system and say, go. If you have a simple system like that, I guarantee you, if things happen, you will cause more confusion. Just visualize this. If there is a blowout, and I hope not ever, but let's say there is a blowout like 1991, and you had installed at the time an automatic alarm system by phone, and now you have a system where you can almost do that, or you can pay for it home by home, within a mile, within 2 miles of issue. and then alarm goes up, ask yourself this question. Who makes a determination whether this blowout or incident is large enough to set that alarm off at 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever? You are giving private industry the authority to do that, right? And that's what you're asking. That is what I oppose. Number two, I guarantee you of any blowout is dependent on the magnitude, dependent on wind conditions, or what you find. There's one advantage of H2S that I think we all should be aware of. It is a very toxic gas. Unabated, it is a very, very dangerous gas. Hydrogen sulfide is next to only hydrogen cyanide. But one of the advantages of it are, it dissipates rapidly. So what can be a magnet level that is required, at least an alert, over here, less than a mile away, it's okay. It takes a lot of planning and coordination to develop an emergency evacuation plan. Please don't let that be the issue to divert you from the main issue of a total hazard and risk assessment by government and the industry before you start to develop that plan.
I want to just say a couple of things about it because we just had a county council hearing on this subject, and Ben Fuata is the current head of civil defense, and the question came up there, and you know, he said that we do have an evacuation plan, and what he said was that they were going to go door to door in the neighborhood. Yeah, but they were going to go door to door in the neighborhood, and you know, and I don't think they have the training or the equipment for that, and I don't think that's a very good plan. And he also said that the blowout that had happened, the levels would not have triggered an evacuation because he thinks the levels have to be twice. And that's our current state of civil defense. And, you know, I'm not trying to insult him, Mr. Fuata. I just think there's politics involved right now in the process. And so I just wanted to answer your question. I lived there for a long time. I evacuated many times, and I didn't wait for anybody to tell me. When I felt like I needed to get out of there, I got out of there.
One thing we all have to remember here, we're all kind of chose this beautiful place to live in. Some of us were born here, and when we chose it, we chose to live in this lava zone. We all know the risks of that. That's nature's risks. This is not nature's risks, this is business risks. That's what we've been talking about tonight. And this upcoming election is going to be very close. We in Puna know lots of people here that aren't registered to vote. We've got to get them out there, and if the only thing they vote for is the mayor and the county council here, and they don't know anything about anything else, then we got to get them out there to vote. It's going to be close. Our Harry Kim's esteemed rival has hundreds of thousands of dollars backing him, and they're pushing him. And you know why they're pushing him. There's no mistake about that. So we got to get out and vote. It could be 400 votes could decide the whole election. Thank you.
Okay, we're running out of time, so we're gonna take a few more questions. We're gonna wrap it up in about 10 minutes because we gotta clean up and we gotta get out of here. So if you have something that's really burning, please ask it, or please get the email contact, and you can call us or write us anytime, and we'll try and answer your questions.
Yeah, just real quick, does anybody have any updates on the pentane question? Just out of curiosity.
I haven't heard anything new on the pentane. For people that aren't aware of what he's talking about, PGV uses working fluid that's called pentane. You have approximately 62,000 gallons on site. Each generating unit uses about 3,000 gallons. They lose approximately, on average, according to PGV, which hasn't been verified, 40 gallons a day, which is considered 90 pounds of pentane. If you average that out over the life of the plant, it's hundreds of thousands of gallons of pentane that's missing. We don't know the implications of that. We do know in 2004, they had a leak and it caused a fire. The generator exploded and it burned for at least an hour. It was a pretty big deal, destroyed the generator. I just want to say on pentane, it's when I talked to Mike Kokini, he's the manager at the plant. We took a tour and we asked him, I think Tom asked him, one of us asked him what was his biggest worry about, the danger of the plant. And he said a pentane explosion. And after that, I had no idea about this. And I had lived there and fought geothermal, and I didn't know anything about this. So there's a lot of things we still don't know. But after looking at it now, that's my biggest concern too, and it is that if there's an earthquake, that they're going to have pentane leaks and that there's going to be an explosion. And we don't know what the blast area is going to be. We don't know if it's going to blow out the control room, if that means the wells are going to vent. And we just don't, there's a lot of information that we don't have.
I was wondering about the risk of drilling in a very active geological area, both triggering earthquakes or eruptions.
Yeah, as far as I know, there hasn't been any, we're not aware of any earthquakes being triggered either by the drilling or the reinjection. Tom may know, he talked to USGS.
No, there are studies that there are thousands of earthquakes. There are thousands of earthquakes caused by the geothermal reinsertion and production wells. Most of those earthquakes are well under detectable for any human, and they're generally accepted in most places as a price doing business. But there are literally, I can show you studies by 2 or 3 studies. There are thousands of earthquakes that have been caused by geothermal drilling. None over 3.
But we don't have any evidence that here, do we, Tom, in Hawaii?
Yes.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, I read 2 studies. Duke University has done 2 studies.
I stand corrected. I didn't know about another something I learned tonight that I didn't know. And I will say that, I mentioned it before, just so you're all aware of it, they re-inject over 4 million gallons of fluids every day. It's 160,000 gallons a minute, according to PGV. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't know how to get a handle on what that means, but it's, if you add that up, 4 million gallons a day over 365 days, over 20 years, where's it going, what's it doing? I don't know how to answer that either.
I have the mic here.
Share?
Yes, when we were voting, when there was so many candidates here voting, coming out to talk about their opinion, we saw Fred, who is the county council, and again, just a reminder, we really do need to get out and vote. Gregory is here. He's come to a lot of the geothermal meetings. And I'm suggesting that you vote also for Gregory to represent.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, so I want to wrap it up. If there's anybody else has a burning question, let's.
I just wanted to see what the best way.
Can you get a microphone, please?
I just wanted, you were saying that you found out new information and he had other information. So where's the best place to get all the information so you can learn?
We have a website where we're trying to compile, our group is trying to compile information. We try to work with Harry. Maybe Harry has something to say on that, I don't know. I don't know.
You have to be, unfortunately, a little more specific in what kind of information you're looking for. A lot of this information is available on the website. Bob is a tremendous source for specifics. And I think if you ask Bob for specific information, if he does not know the website, I'm sure you can find it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get kind of quickly updated on the whole issue in general because I just moved here a few months ago. So I saw Big Island Video News had, the testimony from previous meetings, and then Pele Defense Fund had some video information. So yeah, I mean, video, that works well to get you quickly updated, but yeah, I was wondering if, you wanted to state some website names or something.
Our website, I think if that's the question, is Puna Pono Alliance, and there's links there. Puna Pono Alliance, there's Puna Pono, that's my website, punapono.com, the one with all the links?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, punapono.com.
I know where there's video, Bob.
Okay, where's video, Carrie?
Where's video, Bob?
I don't know. I don't know the name of the site. Tell me.
It's called YouTube.
Well, YouTube, but where?
We have a channel on YouTube called Occupy Hawaii. I have videotaped and uploaded almost every geothermal meeting since the beginning of time. So basically, if you go on YouTube and search geothermal Hawaii, I dare you not to find my website.
Pretty computer illiterate sometimes.
That's what I'm doing right
Okay, so are we done?
I have one question.
Okay.
How do we stop it completely? How do we shut the plant down over it so we don't have to move out of our houses?
Yeah, well, we just, you get involved, go to the EIS hearing, stay on top of things, and ask questions like what Harry said. You gotta get specific questions. What's leaking, what is the hazard assessment, mitigation, I mean, it's a process. And the other thing is, if anybody smells it, if you're in the neighborhood and you smell that gas, please call us, and I'll go up and check. And it smells like rotten eggs. And if it smells like rotten eggs and near that power plant, I would appreciate a phone call. And I will go up there and take a look at it and try to document that. I don't have that number. Does anybody have it? But also, please don't just make your complaint to PGB. We want to know about it too. Well, sound levels, they have a permit to make sound. We're working on that. We've got coming up in September. There's going to be a county council hearing. Get on the email list, and you'll get the notice.
Actually, regarding noise, they're going to do an ordinance to try and keep.
Oh, please! I'm supposed to be asking for donations, and I keep getting overdone. So please help us out with the donations.
And sign up for the newsletter, and we'll keep you posted on the noise ordinance. That's all right. That's all right.
Thank you all very much for coming. Really appreciate it. Wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I'm really impressed with the community, and let's get rid of this stuff.